Hey guys, welcome back to Econ class. Today's lesson is on demand. Now this is the first lesson of Unit 2. Now Unit 2 covers a variety of different topics, but it really is the heart and soul of microeconomics. So you really need to follow along. You really need to make sure you're on track, understanding every concept in this unit, especially the big model. Now, supply and demand, price system, the concept of elasticity are a few of the things we're going to be covering. Consumer and producer surplus, international trade, impact of government and intervention through taxation, price ceilings, price floors, quotas, all that fun stuff. And then the concept of deadweight loss, the impact and the market loss from government intervention and a number of other different things. So this is the big stuff for Unit 2. The model that we're going to be looking at, the focal point of Unit 2, 3, 4, and 5, basically the rest of this class is the supply and demand curve. You've got your downward sloping demand curve, your upward sloping supply curve. From that, we get price and quantity on the different axes. Now, we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to add the consumer and producer surplus, just to give you an idea of what this unit actually deals with. So make sure that as we're covering it, you understand this model above everything else. All right, now a few things that we're going to be bringing back from Unit 1. First off, the idea of incentives. This is not going away in this class, but the price incentive is really what we're looking at here. How changes in prices, high price, low price, how that impacts consumers and producers, to drive them to buy or produce more or less. Now, the market economy, this is what we are illustrating. The forces of the market economy, that invisible hand through the price system guiding resources. And then finally, consumer choice, especially when we're dealing with demand. Those budget constraints, the idea of marginal analysis, the concept of diminishing marginal utility, that's going to play in heavily in today's lesson with that downward sloping demand curve. So this is the demand curve. And this is also part of the supply and demand curve, the most important model in microeconomics. We've got our vertical axis with its price. We have our horizontal axis with the quantity demanded, and we have our downward sloping demand curve. Now, demand is simply the ability and willingness of a consumer to purchase a product at the varying price levels that exist within a market. So this is our demand schedule. It gives us the same information as the demand curve. It tells us the price and the quantity demanded at that particular price. At $18, this consumer or the consumers in this market are going to buy zero product. As we kick price down a little bit, we bring price down to $15, one consumer is going to buy this product. We drop it even further down to 12, two are going to buy this product. Down to 9, 3, and again, as we keep dropping the price, the quantity demanded continues to increase. So the quantity demanded is what we find at a single price. At $12, the quantity demanded is 2. One price, one quantity. It's a single point on the curve. It tells us how much will be purchased at this particular price. Now, demand as a whole is the entire curve. It's all the prices and all the quantities that might be purchased at any given price. It's represented by the entire curve. Now, the law of demand, which the demand curve follows, states that there's an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. As price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. As price goes down, quantity demanded goes up. Now, a change in the quantity demanded is illustrated by movement along the curve. It is caused and only caused by a change in the price. We can only move from point A to point B or any point to another point on the curve because of a change in the price of the product. Now, the downward sloping nature of the demand curve has a couple different reasons. The law of demand is the big reason for it, but the income effect and substitution effect come into play as well. The income effect is a change in the quantity demanded from a change in the consumer's purchasing power when price changes. So the example I'm going to give you goes back to maybe 10 years ago, Halloween. Every year we'd give my nieces and nephews little goodie bags. So that would bring me to the store every year to buy certain, little goodies. And I started to get in this trend where I would go to Walmart after the holiday was over to try and get the clearance deals. So in a given year, let's say that I would go to the store and these plastic pitchfork Halloween accessories would cost about $3.99. Now I might go in and buy 3 of them, let's say on normal price to give to my nieces and nephews as part of their goodie bag. But this particular Halloween I walked in there and I just happened to walk in on the 90% off sale. Now that meant that the price of these pitchforks was no longer $3.99, it was down to 40 cents a piece, 90% off. So I was planning on buying 3, but I ended up buying a lot more. Instead of 3, I ended up buying about 17 of these stupid pitchforks. Now, other than my wife being upset with me, why did this happen? It was because my purchasing power went up. I went in there with so much money and I planned on buying a few things for my nieces and nephews. But when the price dropped, I felt like I had more money. The purchasing power, the amount that I could buy increased. So diminishing marginal utility occurs as we consume more of a good and service. Now, maybe I got $3.99 out of my 3rd unit of pitchfork that I bought, but in this case, I was down to 40 cents, so I could get a lot more until my diminishing marginal utility got down to that point. So I was willing to buy more. The purchasing power went up. I felt rich, so I went and bought a whole bunch more, even though the satisfaction I got was a lot lower from that 17th unit. But it was still above that 40 cents. So the income effect, it changes the purchasing power when price goes down. Now, another reason that the demand curve is downward sloping is due to the substitution effect. Change in the quantity demanded caused by the consumer substituting with products that have become relatively cheaper. So let's say that I go to the grocery store and that I need to fulfill the protein that I need for the week. I'm going to buy some chicken, I'm going to buy some hamburger. And I base the mix that I get, how much chicken, how much hamburger, based on consumer choice, based on maximizing my utility. So let's start off with hamburger at about $5 per pound. So I buy so much hamburger based on this, I buy so much chicken based on what it cost. Now, as hamburger goes down in price from $5 down to $3, the amount of hamburger that I buy is going to change because now the per dollar margin utility is going to increase per unit of hamburger that I buy because the price is lower. So that lower price causes me to buy more hamburger and less chicken and move down that downward sloping demand curve. Whether it's the income effect or the substitution effect causing us to buy more of a good or service, diminishing margin utility is really what's causing that downward slope. Now, diminishing margin utility we talked about in Unit 1, it's the idea that we get less and less satisfaction as we consume more and more of a good or service. So we also understand that we only buy a good or service if the marginal benefit equals or exceeds the marginal cost. So as we consume more and more units and we get less and less satisfaction, in order for us to buy more, price needs to drop. In a sense, the demand curve is also our marginal benefit curve. And that'll play into the concepts that we learn when we talk about consumer and producer surplus. Now, the demand curves we've looked at, we haven't differentiated between market and individual, but there is a difference. And most of the curves we see are going to be market curves. Now, market curves are just established by looking at all the individuals in a given market. Let's pretend that Abigail, Mary, and Cody make up the entire market for this example. So we look at all the different prices in the market, we look at all the different quantities demanded that the consumers in that market have, and then we sum them up to get totals. So our market demand curve is based on Abigail, Mary, and Cody. And we can plot this out based on their numbers. Now, if one of them was to leave the market, we would have to take away all those units that they would consume, and that curve would then shift to the left. If we added another consumer to the market, we would see the curve shift to the right as we add additional units to each of those prices. So not only do we move from point to point on the demand curve as price changes, but the entire curve can shift based on a number of different determinants. So a shift of the demand curve is either an increase or decrease in demand. If we shift to the right, that is an increase in demand. What this means is that we are buying more at every price level. Instead of buying 3 at $12, we are now buying 5. Instead of buying 5 at $3, we are now buying 7. We've increased at every price level in the market. A shift to the left is a decrease. This means we are buying less at every price level. Instead of buying 3 at $12, we are now buying 1 at $12. It's a change in the quantity demanded at every price in the market. It is extremely important to differentiate between changes in the quantity demanded and changes in demand. Now starting at point A here at $5, our quantity demanded is 10. As price drops down to $3, our quantity demanded increases to 15. This is movement along the curve. This is a change in the quantity demanded. It is caused by a change in price and only in a change in price, moving from one point on a curve to another. Now, when the entire curve shifts, this is a change in demand. The quantity demanded is going to change. At $5, we're no longer buying 10, now we're buying 15. But it's changing at every price in the market. It's changing at $3, it's changing at $1. So this is a change in demand. This is not caused by a change in the price of the product. This is caused by one of the many different demand determinants that we're going to be covering. Now, consumer taste is one of the biggest determinants of demand, or shifters of demand, I should say. So if you guys remember fidget spinners back in the day, we saw them come into a trend and go out just as quickly. And this is a perfect example of how consumer taste can impact the demand of a good. Now, anything that shifts the demand curve to the right is it's taste in favor of the good, I guess. It means that we want this product more. Maybe an advertisement for the product, maybe a news story promoting or supporting the product. Maybe weather encouraged us to buy coats or something of that nature. But it was consumer taste going in favor of a product. Now, on the other hand, we can also shift to the left, taste against the good. As fidget spinners became less and less popular and people wanted them less, the demand curve shifted to the left. It meant that we were buying less at every price in the market. Maybe something in another product, a PSA or public service announcements against a product, saying that it was damaging or something of that nature. So we saw it shift to the left. Less and less people wanted to buy it at every price level. Now, there are a lot of different things that can impact consumer taste. So just keep that in mind. This is one of the biggest categories in terms of shifters of demand. Now, the next one that we look at is price of complements. Complements are products that are used together. So the price of the complement is going to impact the product, the demand for the particular market. Now, in the market for marshmallows, all right, if there's a decrease in the price of a complement, let's say graham crackers become cheaper, so people start buying more graham crackers, but that means that they need more marshmallows to go with them. So the demand curve for that product shifts to the right. Demand for marshmallows goes up because graham crackers are cheaper. Now, another complement, let's say chocolate bars for that matter, they go up in price. Let's say Hershey chocolate bars go up in price. That means that people are going to buy less Hershey chocolate bars and they're going to buy less marshmallows because they're used together in the creation of s'mores. So the demand would shift left for marshmallows. So keep that in mind. Complements, a decrease in the price of a complement causes demand to go up. An increase in the price of a complement causes demand to go down for the product. Now, the price of substitutes can also impact the demand curve. Now, let's look at the market for butter. Now, a perfect substitute for butter, or close to perfect, is margarine. They do about the same thing. We can use them in baking. We can use them on bread. We can, cook things in them. So butter and margarine are acceptable substitutes. Now, if the price of margarine, the substitute, goes up, less people are going to be buying margarine and going to convert over to buying butter. So the demand for butter goes up at every price level. Now, instead, if the price of margarine goes down and it becomes cheaper, more people are buying margarine and less people are buying butter. So butter demand curve shifts to the left because less people are buying it at all price levels. Now, the number of consumers can also impact the demand curve. For any given product, if there are more consumers around, demand is going to go up. It doesn't mean every consumer is buying them. It just means probably a lot of them are. Now, a decrease in consumers, less consumers in an area, are going to cause the demand curve to go down for the given product. Less people are going to buy it at every price level in the market. Now, expectations about the future can also cause the demand curve to shift currently. So in the market for gasoline, this is an example a lot of us have experienced. If we expect the price of gasoline to go up tomorrow, if there's a news report that there's an oil shortage and gas is going to go up 10% tomorrow, we buy more today. We fill up our tank, we tap it off. We make sure that we have as much gas as possible. So we're going to be buying more at every price in the market. Even though the price hasn't changed yet, we're anticipating tomorrow's price raise and we are buying more now. Now, if we expect gas to be cheaper tomorrow, we're going to hold off. We're going to try and get by on that quarter tank of gas that we have for a little bit longer until that price actually goes down. So currently, the demand is going to shift to the left because less people are going to buy it, putting it off until later when that price actually drops. Now, changes in income have a big impact on demand. Now, there are two different types of products that we're going to look at here. Now, typically we assume that an increase in income is going to cause us to buy more of a product. You get a new job, you go out to eat more. You get a new job, you buy more clothes. It's what we do. Prices don't have to change. We just buy more because we are able to buy more. We lose our job, we get less hours, we buy less. Now, this is only true when it comes to normal goods. Normal goods are the types of goods and services that we buy, and they respond in the same direction as our income. Now, this will make a little more sense when I talk about the next one, inferior goods. Now, with this, income goes in the opposite direction. If I have an income decrease, I'm going to buy more of these inferior goods. If I have an income increase, I am going to buy less. Now, an inferior good is the type of good that we really don't want to buy, but under certain circumstances, financial hardships, we tend to buy more of. Now, there are many different products on many different levels that might qualify as an inferior good. Think of something that you would buy less of because you have more money. Maybe it's a certain brand of clothing. Maybe it's a certain type of car. One of the best universal answers I always get in the classroom is ramen noodles. It's something that we buy more of when we have less money, college years, and we buy less of when we have more money. We might still buy ramen noodles if you're making six figures, but you're not buying more and more and more as your income keeps rising. We start to replace it with better products. So when our incomes go up, inferior goods have a decrease in demand. We shift to the left because we're buying less and less of these goods. We can afford the better things in life, so we buy less of these inferior goods. All right, now let's take a little time and put what we just learned to practice. In the description below, you'll find a link to these PDFs right here, practicing stuff on the demand curve, changes in quantity demanded, and the shifting of demand curves based on the different determinants. So give this a shot and see how you do. Now, also, make sure that you're taking a look at the next video in this series on supply. As usual, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.